Everybody, welcome to this week's Saturday Spotlight. I'm so excited to have you here. This week you get to meet the amazing author Saloni Surah. How are you today, Saloni?
I'm really good. It's lovely to be here today, chatting to new friends, I hope.
Yeah, I am so excited that you made the time for today because we are actually in two different countries, so time gaps can be hard, and we both have little kids, so that can be a fun scheduling challenge even when you're in the same city. So we made it. Yeah, I'm so excited. So for people who don't know, Saloni's book is called Flora Investigates: The Case of the Missing Gold Eggs, and it is an early chapter book. It has a gorgeous cover, and I can't wait for you guys to learn more about it. Saloni, would you mind just telling us a little bit about the premise of the book?
Okay, so I'm going to hold the cover up whilst I talk. I'm a little bit naughty with this book because it's basically a story about my husband's friends and family. My husband's Italian, and when we met, my mother-in-law used to keep chickens, and we'd talk about them a lot. Well, one day, one of the chickens went missing, and he joked that there'd been a murder in the backyard. When I went to Florence, I met his friends and family. There were dogs, there were cats, there were parrots, and the story grew. So I've been really naughty and I've parodied a lot of my in-laws, but it was a lot of fun, yes.
I love that. I think that all of us give, a little bit of ourselves to our writing, no matter what our writing is. I have to know, though, do your in-laws know that they've been parodied a little bit?
They do know. I mean, like my mother-in-law doesn't speak Italian, so she's not read it. My brother-in-law has it, but I don't think he's read it. The characters are different. It is a girl detective book, and I'm a girl, and when I was growing up, there weren't that many girl detective books. I think it was like Nancy Drew. And I also wanted to slightly tackle gender stereotypes. So, she's a bookish girl, and she likes reading and she likes quiet, a bit like me. And, I think for role models, for girls and boys, it can be tough for females. It can be, very made up or very on the go. So I wanted something that was a bit healthier. It's really a girl who has a dream and doesn't give up. So she wants to be a detective and a big detective, but, who wants to employ girls? So she sets up her own agency and she finds her first paid case, which is a chicken has gone missing, but this chicken lays gold eggs. So I had a lot of fun. There's a flying boat, and there's a scary hunter, and there's a cheese-eating, dancing, flying pirate, and a lot of cats. So I have a very funky imagination, which always surprises people because I'm originally a doctor. So it's total polar opposite, or maybe it's not, I don't know, to the day job.
I love that you can still find that within yourself and express yourself, right? Because I think as humans, not even as characters, we are dynamic, right? We have so many different sides to us, and not that they're disingenuous to each other, but, who I am with my kiddo is going to look different than who I am with my husband or even my best friend, right? Because we have different interests and different priorities and responsibilities, and you get to let, different parts of you shine. So I love that you were able to kind of tap into that.
Well, the funny thing about it is, it always surprises people, is I started writing when I was doing my PhD. So I think it was because I was doing such formulaic, rigid medical writing that I wanted to do something a bit more creative. I do write across genres. So, this is an early chapter. I've got a middle grade, hopefully coming out in May, which is a clipped wing fairy book, and that is a book about bullying and clipped wings and how it happens to us all and how we get them back and forgiveness. Funnily enough, I have picked up some medical writing that I was doing years ago, because I'm a HIV sexual health doctor, so I've heard a lot of crazy. And not just that, you hear a lot working as a doctor, so that's what I picked up. But I also coach, so I've got some kind of self-help books or personal development books, on bullying and things. So it's time to let them out into the world now, I think.
I think that's awesome. At what point did you know that writing was just a core part of who you are, no matter, what you were doing, outwards with the world?
So it's something I actually fought for quite a while, and it's a funny story. When I was it was 2000 and I was a medical student. I went to Australia backpacking for the first time, and my granddad passed the night before I was going to fly, and this was before the days of mobile phones and things, so it was touch and go whether I was going to make it, but I did. And I obviously was incredibly upset. My friends and I ended up going to a psychic in Manly, just a bit of fun. And I remember her saying to me, "Look, you're going to be an author." And I was like, "I don't think so. That's as far from how my life is going as planned." And I kept on getting told it, if I'd have a reading or something. Not that I had a lot, but from time to time. Actually put me under a bit of pressure, because I was like, I have no idea what to do or how to write. And then I think probably it was the PhD of just needing a creative outlet where it just came out. For me now, if I don't write, it's a form of release and just letting things out. And when you look back at what you've written, you realise there's so much of what's going on in your life that you didn't realise at the time in those words and the stories.
I 100% agree, and I think sometimes our characters can work through, their own dilemmas, their own dramas, and it can kind of heal us in a way when the main character, even a side character, is healing through their struggles, because it does give a sense of hope. But again, I think a lot of us have little parts of us embedded in our stories, and I don't know, it's kind of a beautiful thing when it can come full circle and you're like, oh, maybe going into this was weighing heavy on my heart for the past couple of weeks, and now it's a little less heavy. It's a little bit easier to carry going forward.
It's a bit of a form of therapy at times, I think. It's kind of, okay, that's clearly what's going on. I didn't even realise at the time, but in some way I did, because it came out in the writing. Sometimes it's totally hammed up. So in this book, the dancing, cheese-eating, flying pirate, I just had a lot of fun there. I was like, how far can I go? How outlandish can I make this? And cheese and all of that stuff. And, I think somebody commented, I had a love reading review, and they're like, there are so many references to farts and bodily functions. And I was like, I am a doctor. I suppose I talk a lot about bodies and functions and noises and smells and all of that stuff. So, funny.
I have to say, as someone from Wisconsin in the States, which is a state primarily identifying as with cheese and as cheese heads, I am a big fan of the cheese-eating pirate without even having met him yet. He's passed all the initial steps.
I have cheese cannons, so I had fun with that. My husband loves cheese, and when we were living in Dublin, I think he had some dancing friends that would have cheese parties. Now, I love cheese too, but, I used to joke that some of them smelled like, sweaty socks or stinky genital areas, and I kept on joking that I would go to the shop saying, I want cheese that smells like, stinky socks in Italian, and we'd laugh. So, yeah, I had fun.
I love that. So you have an early chapter book, you have a middle grade book coming out. What do you think, what genres do you think that you'll stay attached to? Do you enjoy writing for the younger ages? Do you kind of want to dabble a bit? And obviously you have, your medical stuff, your serious, adult self-help stuff too. I don't know, do you have a favorite? What do you think will stick with you?
It's funny. I am a mixture. And I know that's what they say, that the wrong thing to do, or if you're going traditionally published, it's the wrong thing to do, or, sometimes it can go against your favour. I'm just somebody who's always done a lot. For me, the kids, having looked after so much poverty and illiteracy, is a way of me being imaginative and having fun. But there's also deep themes in my book. So, Flora is a girl who has a dream, who doesn't give up, and she faces her fears. She gets onto that flying boat, and she works out who stole Gina. The middle grade book, The Last Fairy Guardian, it's a book about bullying and wing clipping and forbidden friendships and the things that we're told about other people or other types of people. I did have refugee fairies in there, but I had to take them out because it was too much of a book, so they're going to have their own stories. I have a couple more, so I have another middle grade Dragons and Dream School that I was supposed to go back and pick up, but the medical writing intervened. So I have more kids and a Farty Elf book, but I also have adult books as well. For me, it's always juggling time, because I was, not at the moment, but, working as a doctor, that was time, and now I have two young children. So it's, I don't get to sit there and write all day, every day. And I probably wouldn't anyway, because, I just can't sit still for that long. But I suspect I'll probably bit back and forth because, I also coach too. So it's, in a way, there's 3 or 4 books that touch on bullying, which have been a big part of my life. The fairies, the workbook, the bullying book itself, and how I kind of overcame it. So I think you can weave that into different books of different genres and age groups, really.
I 100% agree. I think bullying is traditionally brought up in a school setting, but we all have it, and it doesn't necessarily just end at school. Even sometimes you end up with family members or bosses or neighbors or just people you end up like in a similar social circle, and the way they approach things doesn't always make other people feel good, and you kind of have to work through it, and how you can deal with that at 13 is going to be very different than how you'll need to deal with it at 30, especially if it's someone that you have to see every day or 5 days a week for 40 hours a day, I think it's a reoccurring theme, and it's unfortunate, but it doesn't just stop once you graduate, school.
I think it possibly gets worse. So, if it's not dealt with earlier, and that's my experience, it gets worse. And, in workplaces, you will have the rare workplace where the employer and the colleagues actually deal with it. What you tend to happen is there's a lot of gaslighting and enabling, which makes it worse and is hugely, hugely damaging. And so, individuals end up leaving. I went to this brilliant talk by the governor of one of the prisons, Mountjoy, years ago, and he basically said that, if your employer or colleagues don't take it seriously, you end up having to leave, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable. But the sadness is it's kind of epidemic proportions. I mean, it's so rife. And if it was dealt with properly or talked about, it can have such a positive effect. But, left untreated, it makes workplaces or home environments or families absolutely, toxic, horrific. And, I think that's the shame about it. And it does ruin lives,
I agree with you 100%. I love that you're writing a book for that middle grade audience that kind of confronts that issue and kind of gives some representation of, I'm not diminishing the situation, but there is a way forward. And so let me show you how this main character might be able to handle things, and I think there's some good healing that can be found in that story as well, which is fantastic.
Thank you. I mean, for me, I'm sidetracking, it is about moving forward. So these things happen. I'm always somebody who would rather deal with things and come at them with suggestions. And I think, unfortunately, it's not often dealt with, and people don't want to deal with it. And all that does is pass it along. And people get away with that behaviour until it gets really worse or incredibly damaging to the person on the receiving end. And it's not healthy for the person doing it, because a lot of the time the people who are bullying others are feeling inadequate and poor inside themselves. They're not feeling great about themselves, or they have anger issues or rage issues and that stuff. And, they need support as well.
I love that you're just promoting that sense of hope. And I feel like, obviously I've not read all of your work, but I think between, the early chapters with the girl who won't give up on her dream, your upcoming novel about moving forward and healthfully, through a toxic situation, but also your self-help books, I think that you're someone who really likes to promote a sense of hope, and I think that that's really special, because at any age, in any situation, I think it's something that we can all just use more of. And I think it's really cool that you're creating that and putting that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for people who want to learn more about you, we kind of already talked about, the big upcoming thing in May, but come May, what are some new things that you have going on?
So there's a couple of things. I have read alouds on YouTube. I have a channel called At Bedtime Stories by Saloni, and that is because I looked after so many adults who couldn't read or write. So for me, that's something that I can give back. And I know sometimes not all children get somebody reading to them at night time. So I have that. There's obviously my website. I do school visits, so I run mini detective workshops on Flora, and there's cases and detective kits and clues, and the fake poo and the rubber gloves go down really well. So I'm really enjoying that. I hope to get out a bit more and share. So my coaching work I haven't picked up since my youngest child was born, but I hope to pick some of that up a little bit more. I am on all the channels, so Facebook, Saloni Surah Author. I'm on TikTok as Saloni Surah and Saloni Surah Coach, so I do a little bit of coaching stuff on there. And on the coach one, there is some tapping videos. And funnily enough, at Christmas time, I put a whole heap up about forgiveness, probably because I was working through that book again and thought, right, well, let's put some tapping videos. It's the end of the year. People are closing off. Let's work on forgiving. So I'm hoping that there will be a bit more of that coming up as I get a bit freer and I suppose move forward. So that's my plan, would be to do a bit more coaching as well and get more of my old body of work out.
I love it. Well, for anyone watching, if you are someone that needs a little bit of extra hope in your life, or you want to provide a little bit of extra hope for some of your younger readers that you love, please check out Saloni's work. As you can tell, she's absolutely fantastic. And Saloni, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Again, thanks for making this happen across the ponds from each other. I think it's really great that we're able to connect, and I don't know, I'm really happy to have had you here today, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, everyone, until next week, take care. Bye.